All right. We're here to introduce you to Steve. He is a logistics guy at the Pittsburgh EMS department. That means that he makes sure that the paramedics on his team have all the tools they need when they go out into the field to do their job. And this is one of those tools. It's called a bone drill. It's pretty gnarly. It drills special needles straight into your bone marrow, which is one of the fastest ways to get an IV into you when you've been severely injured. And unfortunately for Steve and his team, these needles are always in short supply. That's because he can only order 30 of them at a time. So the business that he's ordering these needles from gave him a call and told him, like, hey, we've noticed that you've been making a lot of tiny orders all the time. What's going on? So what happened is there's a 3-week window for that business to bid to become a bulk vendor for the city of Pittsburgh and be able to sell any number of needles to the city for a certain amount of time. And they missed that window. And so it'll be maybe a year, maybe a couple months before that opportunity comes up again. In the meantime, Steve and his team are making many small purchases underneath the $2,000 procurement threshold to make sure that they have all the life-saving medical equipment on hand for their team. We were wondering why that business missed that opportunity, and then we saw this website. So the city is required to advertise business opportunities in just the local newspaper in their classified section. So once we took a look at this, we realized how hard it can be to parse this information and how this information requires businesses to constantly check every single local newspaper. So often, life-saving medical equipment can be in short supply because the city's outreach strategies leaves a lot of interested businesses out of the loop. We continue to walk around the supply area for the EMS department, and I noticed bins and bins of CPAPs. These are breathing masks, and there are many different bins because, well, people have different size faces. You want to make sure you get a mask that fits your face. Unfortunately, each kind of mask comes from a different vendor. So Steve has to sift through fat packets of line items like this when he makes orders to make sure he's ordering the right kind of mask from the right person. So he's sinking a lot of administrative time into looking up information about businesses that have successfully navigated getting on contract with the city. So these are just a couple examples of the basics of procurement, things we believe that cities should be able to do simply and quickly for their day-to-day operations. And these are also examples of the real human costs when these basics aren't working as smoothly as they could be. So this year, we're focusing on 3 ways of fixing these basics. The first being opening up the marketplace. How do we improve communication between the city and the business community? Secondly, there are 10 plus ways for city staff to procure things within the city. So how do we help city staff understand which one is the right one? And thirdly, once a business is already on contract with the city and selling things, how do we help city staff understand what they can buy quickly and easily? And Patrick will tell you more.
Thanks, Shelley. So as Shelley mentioned, the first area we're focusing on is the marketplace. And so our main question is how can we open that marketplace up to more businesses to do business with the city of Pittsburgh? In our mind, that's communication. So essentially, we just want to increase the number of businesses because that actually is what creates a competitive market. And that's what we think will deliver value for our city partners. So back in May, we launched this. This is the City Parks cleaning RFP. And it's just a simple one-page website where businesses could come, put their email address in, and get updates about the upcoming opportunity. They can also go through an FAQ that tells them what they need to do business with the city of Pittsburgh. And we're really excited because the first 2 times that this was released, they only got 1 or maybe 2 responses, and neither of them really actually were viable bids. But we were really, we saw a lot of impact with this because we actually got 16 responses from that pilot. which again, that's 16 times the amount that they were seeing before, and we ended up getting 50 businesses sign up for this email list. So now we're scaling that up. We did a soft launch of this site, which is a way to show all opportunities for the city of Pittsburgh. And again, it's just it's a pretty simple website. You come, put your email in, and you get updates about opportunities that relate to the business that you do. And so our main takeaway is that our hypothesis that communication was the major issue was supported by this pilot. And we're really excited to see the next steps, or the actual value that's returned on this project. The second area we're focusing on is what we're calling the playbook. The playbook is 10 different ways that people in the city of Pittsburgh can get things that they need to do their jobs that aren't necessarily on contract yet. Right now, figuring out which 10 of those processes you need to go through and the documents you need to file and who you need to submit those to, they're not written down, and it's really confusing, and it takes a lot longer because there's so much confusion in the process. So what we're basically doing is we're approaching this by just enabling city staff to actually write this down and put it in a central database. And we're focusing on contracting procedures as a pilot. What we see is that the end point for most of these processes is this. This is Matt Steidel. He's in the law department. And all these processes basically end with a contract. So what we think we can do is basically help elucidate that process, and then it ends in a contract. And so we launched this. This is another tool that basically is a choose your own adventure style of the procurement process. You say what kind of thing you are buying, what the general budget is, if it's emergency or not, sole source, et cetera, and it ends in a list of documents and eventually a form that will actually go to legal. Right now, we are piloting this tool with 2 different departments and 3 city staff in those departments in June. And so far, the feedback has been really good. We've had a lot of buy-in from legal. Using departments are excited to be able to use it when they're actually doing this contract process. And so we're looking forward to seeing how that delivers for this specific area. And with that, I'll hand off to Ben to talk about inventory.
Thanks, Patrick. So Steve isn't the only person who struggles to figure out what's on contract and what line items he can buy. Throughout City Hall, we found people who are writing things down and keeping shadow systems of basically everything that they are able to use. So what we want to know is, can we reduce the amount of time it takes to look up this contract information? Back in January, we worked on a simple tool we called Explorer, which took a centralized Excel spreadsheet that was buried in a shared drive, essentially just put a search bar on it. And this, enabled city staff to much more quickly find things that were on contract. So when we were back in February and since, we asked people, what do you think of this? And there were 2 general pieces of feedback. One was, this is a real thing. And the second was, I want more. I want more contracts. I want more line items. I want pricing information. And so what we've done is we've improved and relaunched this project to allow you to do many more things. So now, if Steve were to go to the tool and search for CPAP, he would see all of the vendors who provide the CPAPs, and not only that, but in the contract, he could see the prices and all of the different information about every single size that is available in a quick and searchable format. And he can also subscribe for updates to get information as the contract changes. Now you might be wondering, where does all of the data live? Well, it lives in spreadsheets that look like this one. So there are 2 purchasing agents in the city of Pittsburgh, and they manage all of the flows for all of the contracts as they go through the process. That's right, there's only 2 purchasing agents that are managing several hundred contracts for a city of 3,000 employees. So what do we want to do? Well, we want to make it a little bit easier to help them manage and update that contract information. This is a up to 13-step process that can take 4 months and travel through 5 departments split between the city of Pittsburgh and the surrounding Allegheny County. So what happens when you get all of this information working together? What happens when these 2 purchasing agents can use a system? Well, we've started thinking about different ways that might look, and this is a prototype that we've developed that is a little bit cleaner, a little bit simpler, and allows you to do things like send notifications when something is stuck in a certain stage, and get information about how long things have been there. And, all of these things are related. If the two purchasing agents are updating information about contracts that are expiring, they can be pushing notifications to vendors who have signed up to receive that information. If they're changing information about line items, then when Steve is searching, he can see that updated information. And so what happens really when all of these things are working together? That's getting the basics right. And what that means is that more businesses will be bidding. It means that there will be less confusion among city staff about the procurement process and the many processes that there are, and less time will be taken looking up information and line items that are on contracts. And so that's what we've been working on and what we're up to next. So thank you.